With the latest update and hot new DLC for Civ 7, I've been trying to figure out why I'm more obsessed with this iteration of Civ than any other. The truth is, I don't have to do much soul searching to figure it out. It's because I've given up on the real world. The game came out around the time of the arrival of what I euphemistically call the current American administration. I had been writing furiously satirical poems to try and capture my moral outrage, with only a little bit of success. Then the game I had been waiting for so long hit my screen, and I was hooked, despite the UI issues. I threw myself into it, even going so far as to follow online content creators and the controversies around the game. This is something I had never done before. I was both disappointed that the game wasn't being accepted as a home run and energized by the debates and insults which were hard to distinguish from each other. But most of all, I played a lot. I played some days as if my life depended on it. Looking back, I think it might have. I started to realize that the game was a great way to escape my disillusionment with the way things were going. The problem was that I lived not that far from the political epicenter of the US, and being Canadian didn't make that tension any easier. In fact, I was increasingly concerned that I would soon be a refugee without a country to go back to. And my second choice, Greenland, was a little iffy as well. So I played game after game, loving the math and logistics of it all. I'm sure there is some immersion that everyone likes to talk about, but when I play games, I can immerse myself in numbers and be content with that. The biggest problem, though, was that I have taught courses on pop culture for decades, and I knew I was lying to myself. There is no such thing as escape. As I often tell my students, escapism is a self-delusion. If there were purely escapist TV shows, for example, we would all watch them and be equally entertained. But we don't all watch the same shows. We smirk at people who watch some shows. We come home, surf through some channels or streamers until we find something that doesn't offend our eyes or sensibilities. I always ask my students to think about why they watch what they watch and not something else. It's natural to be attracted to specific aesthetics or types of stories or modes of play in the case of games. I like turn-based games, Civ-like games. There's something satisfying about starting out with nothing and growing it one settlement at a time and watching complex cultures emerge with their different units and buildings and their distinct goals. But just like with the many reasons people watch specific TV shows, this is not how everyone sees a Civ game. For some, it's about the thrill of conquest, something I feel from time to time as well. Or it's about competition or cooperation with others playing the game. We all have competing ideas about how to best govern our Civ. From Civ to Civ and game to game, and the devs of Civ 7 have a vision of achieving a certain balance in the game, something that is essential for online play, but less so for solo games. So, there's been a lot of back and forth between the devs and the players, as has been the case for at least the last few iterations of the game. It's worth taking a look at Not Daily Civ 7 News' piece on this history and the current state of the game. I've linked it down below in the description. I've also linked one of the responses to his article from a sometime dev. The upshot is that there are frequent debates about balance and redistribution of resources in the game. And it's that phrase, redistribution of resources, that sent me back to my old grade 9 poli-sci class. Redistributing resources was the most basic universal function of government, no matter what type of government. The great fire and brimstone debates about political ideologies were all about redistribution of resources. Oh my God, I hadn't escaped anything at all. We were still talking about fairness, rules, tweaks, major overhauls, imbalances of power, economies of scale, incomplete infrastructure projects. And we were debating about the pace of change and how much was too much. I felt like the character number 6 on the show The Prisoner. I could be fooled into thinking I had escaped the island, but I was always there when I woke up again in the morning. Which brings us to the guy who invented the field of virtual economics, Edward Castronova. He began his academic career studying the economy of online games, and then began taking seriously how game companies and players gradually began creating something that resembled a governmental call and response system. He has argued that games make corrections in a way that is more efficient and mutually beneficial than anything real-world governments can do. And in a world where technology has left governments struggling to keep up because so much now transcends national borders, the gaming world has international players who obey international rules for each game they play. And the games are designed to be fun. There might come a time, Castronova argues, where people are used to optimizing their online experiences to the point where they wonder where they can't just optimize their real-world experiences. He imagines a future where a type of ludocracy, rule by game, might take the place of systems we currently rely on. Fun fact, if you look up ludocracy, one of the first things you come across is a game listed on Steam as of 2011. It's about a man who has to complete games to resolve world conflicts. The description says, as a man stripped of his memories, you must learn and master games like Mancala, Nard, and Tafel to survive, uncover your past, and challenge the god of this cruel, game-ruled society. The implication here is that rule by game might not be all that great. Just ask players who feel that the devs of Civ 7, for example, are not listening to them. Although the series of updates, including 1.2.5, is increasingly throwing that narrative into question. But the concern remains that a world run according to games would not be all that Castronova dreams. Meanwhile, one of the criticisms leveled at Civ 7, even before it first came out, was that it was too woke. And in one key way, they were identifying something significant about the game they may not have been fully conscious of. It's tempting to say the wokeness accusation was just because Harriet Tubman had been announced as a new leader in the game. It would be simplistic and misleading to say that there was a tinge of racism to the criticism. After all, the Civ series had long stopped being the refuge of animated dead white leaders from history. The main point that critics made was that Tubman was never an official leader, political, military, or otherwise. But she did rebel against the rules of her time and place. And to be fair, those criticisms of her character died off relatively quickly because the devs had made her a unique and really interesting leader to play. After all, it's all about the play experience, not the politics. Still, I think there's something to the wokeness thing, and I use that word as someone who could be called woke to the point of anarchist. When you look down the list of leaders that have been released so far, you have Benjamin Franklin, a revolution-adjacent leader. Then you have Jose Rizal, who, while not a revolutionary, approved of those who were and was executed for that. And don't forget Lafayette, who played a key role in the American Revolution and helped launch the French Revolution. Busy guy. Then there's the freshly minted Lakshmi Bai, who rebelled against the British government in colonial India. Tecumseh, who rebelled against the American government, and Trung Trac and her sister, who rebelled against the Chinese government in Vietnam. And Simón Bolívar is back, the indomitable force who helped overthrow Spanish rule, arguably in 6 countries. And I also include Ada Lovelace, who began a slow-rolling technological revolution that would lead to the modern computer. And you have Confucius and Machiavelli, who were critics of the governing bodies of their times, even though they seem to very much want to be a part of those bodies. Altogether, there are, unless I'm miscounting, more rebel leaders than ever before in a Civ game. And we haven't even seen the return of Gandhi yet. Some people, as it's common to say now, might argue that this is an acknowledgement of how rebel causes have shaped history. Is Civ 7 taking political sides, even if long after the historical fact? Is the game giving tacit approval of rebellion? Was it the emphasis on rebels that attracted me to the game? Well, look a little closer, and what I mostly see are leaders who were advancing nationalist causes against foreign actors, something I consider pretty conservative on some levels. So, not really woke in the end, except for Tubman and Lovelace. And Lovelace was progressive, mainly in her belief that she could do anything and more than a man could do. Confucius and Machiavelli might have had noble ideals, but they were not what I would consider selfless. I welcome disagreement on this point, by the way. Still, I keep coming back to how when we play a game like Civ 7, we are constantly experimenting. Maybe like the devs experiment with us and what we find fun. In the modern era, we can choose ideologies, but that's more about yields than ideals. Is that true in real politics as well, do you think? But we can also choose how we want to win, depending on the culture and leader we have gone with and who we have to contend with as neighbors. That's just it, right? We might have our play styles, but we occasionally have to venture beyond them to match the challenges we have in a particular game. A single way of doing things will not work for every game. We see it down through the ages in our game, and we see it from one game to the next. There is no one perfect method of governing, and we have to adapt on a situational basis. We don't know what new leaders or new civs are coming along, ready to shake things up at least a little. In the game world, that's called fun. In the real world, that's much harder. But the game world helps us play through the changes. Well, this game has helped me play through the changes. And it has, in a very subtle way, helped me play out crises and showed that all ways of doing things give way to other ways of doing things, for better or for worse. Sometimes both. So, did I lie when I said I had given up on the real world? Obviously, I haven't escaped it. It permeates everything I do, just like a culture is supposed to. So, if you liked what you saw or heard, drop a like or a subscribe. This is Civilized Raccoon, and I'll see you next time.